and welcome along to this week's edition of the Invincible podcast. Do not adjust your sets, it's not Robbie, it's the older but better looking version.
Yes. And also the one that gets here on time.
And it's on time.
No excuses about accidents on the motorway,
traffic, you know.
I'm a true professional. This video is sponsored by StakeMate, the UK's leading social football betting app. If you're tired of the hassle of sharing bets with your friends, then StakeMate is for you.
StakeMate makes football betting more social by bringing mates together with features like bet builders, chat and share, and the ability to instantly copy a friend's bet with a tap.
Their new group bet features makes group hackers a breeze, allowing you to create, share, discuss and pay for your bets with your friends. You can also follow updates in real time as well as collect your winnings, all on the same app. We're going to be making a group bet of our own later on in the show.
Sign up now using code AFTV5 for 2 free £5 group bets, plus an additional free £5 bet for a limited time only until 10th of May. Just click the link below or scan the QR code on screen. Users must be 18 or over and in the UK. Please gamble responsibly and visit begambleaware.org. Click the link below or scan the QR code on screen to download the StakeMate app today. The app is currently only available on iOS, but don't worry Android users, there will be a version for you very soon.
Thanks again to StakeMate. Users must be 18 or over and in the UK. Please gamble responsibly and visit begambleaware.org. But anyway, joining me on the show today, it is my honour and pleasure to introduce to my far left, Julian in the building.
I like the intros.
I like the intros.
Yeah, I don't get this from Robbie.
No, certainly don't.
And a man I've got a lot of fondness and affection for. Not that I haven't got for you, but this man, I've known him for a long time. He actually lives not too far from me. Lee Judges in the building.
The man.
What's happening, man?
We've had a good week, haven't we? We've had a good week.
Yeah.
I was going to say, man, I mean, last time you guys did this show, you was just coming back from the disappointment of the Bayern Munich game. And I remember you guys were like dead tired, weren't you?
Yeah.
It was on that afternoon, wasn't it? We'd arrived in the morning.
Yeah, we come back in the morning.
And we'd had a week of a draw, a loss, and a loss.
Yeah.
And we've now had a win and a win.
Yeah. And there's been other stuff going on. I mean, they say a week is a long time in sport, and it's true, because I mean, obviously after that game, especially coming back from Germany, you guys were tired, and I could see you're a bit deflated, and you know, that's natural, because the performance weren't great, let's be honest. But then since then, things have picked up a little bit. So there's a lot to unpack, so let's go.
Yeah.
Let's start off by talking about a couple of the games since the Bayern Munich game, since the last Invincible podcast. Let's start with the Wolves game.
Yeah, the Wolves. I've got to say, Laurie, a bit worried going up there, like, you know, because as you quite rightly say, the form weren't great, and there was questions. And Arsenal had to respond to them, and we had a fantastic box, didn't we? Thanks to Indy. It was like great, wasn't it? Like, you know, and
we just had a really good time.
time.
That's 2 seasons now running where we've gone and won there. We've been looked after, but it's just so friendly.
He's such a great guy.
And the way the box is designed is completely different from any other stadium we've been to. Whereas we're right above the Arsenal fans, so you have the benefits of getting the atmosphere
of the away end,
and you get the comfort of a meal and sitting in the warm.
Yeah, and watching it, drinking beers and you know, or whiskies
and tomato juice.
Yeah, so
to the game itself, 2-0. You know what? I'm going to say this. See if you guys agree with me, but it was actually a more comfortable game than I thought it would be. I thought Wolves would give us a sterner test. Although that being said, you got to throw the caveat in there. They did have a lot of injuries.
Yeah, listen, I felt we was comfortable all the way through. I was never worried about the game, but there was there's a moment in the game where when you're 1-0 up, I suppose it's the last 10 minutes, 5 minutes from the end, that if they actually do score, there's no coming back. And that's when we was worried, weren't we? Like, other than that, we weren't. And then when we got the second goal from Odegaard, that was just, for me, I don't know how Julian feels, it was like relief. We got the result. We played okay, weren't brilliant, but it was
job done, isn't it?
Yeah, it was a stepping stone to go for it. We needed to win that game, and we did. And I felt it was comfortable, but because you're in it
Yeah, no, I know
he's
exactly
not
what you mean.
comfortable, is he?
Obviously, those feelings are more heightened because you're at the game.
Yeah,
but back in the studio doing a watch, it's the same thing.
It was comfortable when you look back at the game. Obviously, that you know the result, but I think you have to sort of look at the fact that Wolves were massively depleted, and that although the performance,
it was a good time to play them.
Yeah,
it was a good time.
It was a good time to play them. And again, the second half, especially as the game wore on, it became more and more tense. And I kind of had the impression that Wolves were pushing forward and they were taking control of the game. And that's why I was getting so stressed as the game was nearing its conclusion. But actually, when you look back at it, you realise that Arsenal did concede possession, but they didn't really give them any chances. So what we were getting stressed about was the occasion and the fact that in our minds something could happen, could go wrong. But when you actually look at it, nothing did go wrong. So they didn't ever really threaten to score that equaliser. And then at the end, as you quite rightly said, it was pure relief. Yeah. But it was right at the end, so we only got our relief right at the end.
No, I perfectly understand that summarisation. It's similar to what we were feeling back in the studio. But yeah, they got that job done. Moving on then to the Chelsea game, midweek game. Now, a lot of people thought that might be a test. Although Chelsea, let's be honest, they weren't in their best moment. They were coming off that defeat to City. A game, actually, in which I thought that they did perform
Played very well. I watched that. We watched that game.
On the way up to Wolves, wasn't it?
And then we watched it in the box, didn't we?
Yeah.
I mean, and I have to say, I was impressed with Chelsea. I have to say.
On another day, they could win.
Well, they should have done. Yeah. They should have won that game and missed chances.
They did.
But when it comes to, I'm not going to lie. I was worried about Tuesday night again because of what's going on and that. I felt that there was more pressure on us than Chelsea. But my word, I've actually watched the game back. I didn't realise. I thought we played really, really well, to be fair, particularly the second half. But watching it back, when you can just see how well we actually played.
5-0
But it should have been more.
And that did not flatter us.
No, it actually should have been more. Some of our football was fantastic on the day. Some of our passing and moving was brilliant. And I actually sat there and in tongue-in-cheek I said, the only disappointment was 6 or 7 after the game. But when I look back at it, it should have been 8 or 9. We should
in that first half.
And we stopped after 70 minutes, by the way. The game, when we the substitutions and all that, we never really kicked on after that again, you know what I mean? So 5-0 was...
Listen, if we'd have had our shooting boots on in that first half, you could be talking double figures.
Unbelievable.
But I've got to say this, guys, and I'll be very interested to hear your opinions because you guys are of a similar age to me. That Chelsea team in the second half, I would say, in the Premier League era anyway, that is the worst Chelsea team I've seen. They absolutely spewed it. They chucked the towel in that second.
Yeah, well, there was a couple of things. Going into the game, Chelsea's form was pretty good. They hadn't lost for 8 games, won 4 and drawn 4. Now, their first half performance, it was a performance of a team that I thought they weren't playing with any great pressure. They broke quite well, and we could have quite easily gone in, drawing the game, or being having a 1-goal deficit. So I thought Chelsea didn't play too badly, but where Chelsea let themselves down was as soon as we got that second goal, is that I've not seen a team give up that easily. So once we scored the second goal, it was just like, right, it's done now.
Yeah, they capitulate.
They capitulated, which
when
is
you
really
think of some of the Chelsea teams in the past, and some of the ding-dong battles we've had with Chelsea, when you think of the likes of John Terry, Ashley Cole, Drogba, Lampard, the list goes on. You know, I mean, some of the players they've had. And to see the way they played in that second half.
Great,
it was wonderful.
No, don't get me wrong, I'm not complaining about it.
Yeah, because we've been there.
Yeah, we have been there. But there's 2 pleasures in going to watch your football team. Is watching them win and watching the opposition lose. And when the opposition is a team like Chelsea, who I can safely say, talking for all of us, none of us have any love or affection for that team whatsoever, is we can revel in that misery. So looking at their second half performance, it was just a beautiful thing to see a club that spent that much money, that's had the success that it's had on the back of whatever financial irregularities are going to come out, just capitulate. And not only for the performance on the day, looking forward, that team, that club, will almost definitely, and they're kind of back there now, will go back to the average club that they were before 2003.
And the other great thing about it, in my opinion, was that a couple of Chelsea fans are, we didn't have Cole Palmer playing for us. I actually laughed at that when I said, well, you've got £105 million midfielder, £115 million midfielder. You've got Gallagher, who's an England international, is your midfield three, right? And at the end of the day, you're moaning about that. Come on, you know what I mean?
But you know what? To be fair, those are very good players. Those guys you've named, Caicedo, Enzo, World Cup winner, Gallagher. Remember when he was at Palace? Tearing out, very good player. Right through the team. Even, dare I say, Nicholas Jackson, who I've been very critical.
Well, I've never seen Saliba.
He's decent.
Yeah, he's
I've never
decent.
seen Saliba outpaced like that.
Yeah, I mean, these guys have got talent.
He's going to be a good player, by the way.
As soon as he learns how to finish,
he should get on the
be a great player.
Get on the training field and start working on your finishing, because I'll tell you that now, there's a player in there. So they've got, but I
tell you what, mate, rinse that blue and white stuff out of your hair. Which
just start concentrating. Instead of going to the hairdressers,
stop fighting over penalties with Madueke.
Should we talk about hairdressers? But I'm saying, instead of going to the hairdressers, he should be getting on the track, Braxfield, training, because I think there's a player there. The one thing that I think, they had Mudryk playing for him, who's another £100 million player, by the way.
We wanted.
Who replaced Cole Palmer for that game. They replaced Cole Palmer for a £100 million player that we wanted. What I see was that players were playing for the wage packet instead of the club. There's players there that I don't think really want to be there. They're there because they got the great deals and things like that. And also the other thing is, if you've got a young player, you imagine it. I don't know if it would work in normal society or not. If you said to a young player, there's an 8-year contract. Millions every year, guaranteed.
Regardless of how well
how well you play or how well you develop or whatever, right? Could that be not a good thing? You know what I mean? Sometimes you need to say, we're giving you a 2-3 year contract. If you do well on this first year, you get this, you get that. I don't know, dangling the carrot sort of thing. But these, at a young age, at say 20 years of age, for the next 8 years, don't matter what happens, you're guaranteed a footballing life.
I think that's a really good point, and you can actually relate that back to a lesser extent on lesser year contracts to some of the Arsenal players in the past, such as Aubameyang, who was brilliant up until he got that contract, and then he seemed to think, well, that's my last big contract, I'll tail off. Ozil, played really well up to a point of getting that 350 grand a week. Even Theo Walcott, when I remember, was playing brilliantly and he gets a new contract and then he tails off. So if you give players 8 years, that's it, they're made for life.
It was clear to me watching that game, and not just that game, but watching Chelsea over the course of the season, that there's a lot wrong with that club. And I've got to call him out, Pochettino, mate. I don't know what you're doing here, man, but a lot of stuff is good. Well, it's not just him. But that whole club, the way it's been run, you can just see that things.
I do feel a little bit sorry for Pochettino, if I'll be honest, because I think he's a good manager. And look what he done at them down the road. He done an excellent job bringing in young players, doing this and doing that, and he made them a very, very good side. There's no two ways about it. But I think it's being run completely different. Yeah. This Chelsea team to how he was running Spurs, you know what I mean? And I think
there's that old saying, Lee, talent will only take you so far. You've got to have the right attitude, but importantly as well, and this is something that is quite overlooked by people, there has to be a proper structure within the club.
100%.
And I think with Chelsea, it's lacking.
And listen, when you've got a player, and I'll say this now, but players are very, very fickle, you know what I mean? But if all right, I'm going to have a go at him and all that, I'd look at it as a player and go, I've got an 8-year contract, you've got a 2-year contract. You know what I mean? Like, you know, I'll wait until you're gone. You know, you know what I mean? You've got to be. I think there's a little bit of that in it, and I think what you've got to do is if I'm Pochettino, I'm going into the board and saying, look, do you really want me here? Am I your man? As if I am, a little bit like Mikel Arteta did by getting rid of Aubameyang. You know what I mean? Like that. I think when I look back at that, whether people think that was right or whether it was wrong, what he done with Aubameyang changed everything about where he is now and Arsenal are, because like
and Ozil.
He actually set the tone.
It set the tone. Yeah. It was also like, let's be honest here, Arsenal are going to lose millions and millions of pounds, so the owners are going to have to take the hit on that, right? Yeah, but they was prepared to do it. So if you're a young player at that football club there, you in that dressing room, I don't know any player that you think you can be, maybe a Saka or Martinelli, they're thinking, well, they've done that to him, I know who's governor now, I know who the boss is, like, you know what I mean, so I ain't going to mess with him, because at the end of the day, they've just backed him and just cost millions and millions of pounds. I don't know if the players think that about Pochettino, and that's the problems that he's got.
Yeah.
You make a very good point. I mean, listen, man, it's a subject I'd like to talk about.
Yeah, so I would just like to expand on something you touched upon, which was the structure at Chelsea. And I spoke to a Chelsea fan before we played them, and I wanted to get a little bit of kind of knowledge of what they saw, you know, their fans saw. And what he said was really interesting. I could relate that back to the difference with Arteta, is when their new management came in, Bowley, he basically ripped everything up, whereas what Arteta did, it was a more gradual change.
Yeah, they evolved.
So yes, he got rid of Ozil, he then got rid of Aubameyang, he then started bringing the players in subsequent transfer windows, but it was a far more gradual involvement. That's why he was talking about the plan, the process. Whereas Chelsea never had a process. Chelsea's process was non-existent. They just ripped everything up and just replaced everything. They threw the good out with the bad. And nothing was fundamentally wrong, I didn't think, with Chelsea. To begin with, they'd won the Champions League, I think, the season before. And they get rid of Tuchel. And then from there, it goes completely downhill and capitulates. And it is a wonderful thing to see.
What did it was, and I said this in my fan cam after the game, if you remember, the week before when they trounced Everton, you had the ridiculous spectacle of Nicholas Jackson and Madueke fighting over a penalty when they were 4-0 up, right? Where was that fight against Arsenal? Where was it? Non-existent. But anyway, moving on.
Just one thing about that. It's a great point, but going back to the Chelsea game, I've just got one thing to say. Kai Havertz celebrating the goal, like I have to say, I absolutely adored that, loved it. I think he's been treated badly by Chelsea, and particularly their fans. You know what I mean? So well done, Kai.
Their fans have got a bit of a nasty streak.
You go, you know what I mean? Like, so for him to do that, just, you know, like,
good point.
He's an Arsenal man. You know what I mean? Like, and you can tell that he loves it at the Arsenal, and he. You know, so I just want to big him up for that, because I felt that was a big moment for him, like, to celebrate like he did.
That was kind of like the crowning.
Old school a little bit, like, you know what I mean. That's how it should be. You know what I mean. You're playing for a new club. And I see too many times the players not celebrating and all that. Celebrate, you know what I mean? Like,
except if you're an ex-Arsenal player and you're
okay,
scoring against us.
Got to move on.
Can I have one last thing? No, because I didn't get a chance. This was something I wanted to talk about on my fan cam, but I didn't get a chance to speak for as long as I was hoping.
I wonder why that was.
Yeah.
Anyway, go on.
So
got in record views, like, and he didn't say a word. Well done, everybody.
I said a couple of words, and it relates to a film I saw back in the day called Sliding Doors, where you have different scenarios. Good film, different scenarios. Now, I was thinking about this with Mudryk. Is we actually went for Mudryk, and because we didn't get him, two things happened. Right. Number one, we got Trossard, who's been a third of the price, and the stats.
And 3 times the player.
You know, more than 3 times the player. I think Mudryk's stats are he scored 6 goals and 4 assists. and Trossard is like...
It might have been different at Arsenal.
It might have been. But here's the other flip side to this sliding doors moment. If we'd spent that much money on Mudryk, would we have then been able to afford Rice? And would Rice then have gone to Manchester City? And that is, and sometimes, and we definitely went for Mudryk, and sometimes a little bit of luck plays into things.
Yeah.
Because we didn't get him, that sliding doors moment has gone on to be successful for us in far more ways, and not for him.
And I will say this, right, he gets booed a lot at the Arsenal. I don't really understand it, because I do think that he wanted to come to Arsenal. I really do. But, you know, circumstances meant that he couldn't, and he's one of those players that I look at, and I look at him and I think he don't really want to be there. You know,
he's right.
He doesn't really want to be there.
Yeah. All right. Okay, thanks for that.
It's a great point, though. Well done. Thank you.
There's no truth to the rumour, by the way, that Julian got a sum of money for mentioning the sliding doors film. There's no truth to it. But anyway, what I wanted to mention with that, with the culmination of that excellent performance and 5-0 smoking of Chelsea, was the fact we went top of the table, and of course there was a couple of games after that that affect the title race. First for Liverpool, surprisingly in my view, losing to Everton 2-0, a result which for me severely dents their title. I'm not going to say they're out of it completely, because mathematically they're not. But I just wanted to get your two guys' thoughts on that very quickly. Well, are they out of it or what?
Yes.
Julian?
As that.
Probably, but then I wasn't as fussed about that result, because in my mind,
it was always
that we have to win our 4 games.
But you didn't see that coming, did you?
No, I think I did, because it's a dark.
I'd be really honest. Be really honest. I didn't see them losing, but I did see that they might draw that game. You know, and that's something you've got to be wary of going into North London derby, because I don't care what anybody says. Liverpool are far, far better team than Everton.
Yeah.
Right. No two ways about it. But on watching that game, I watched the team want it more, show more desire, worked harder. All the things that...
And that's not often you could say that when you talk about a Jurgen Klopp team.
When it's a derby game and the pressure was on Liverpool and Everton as well, a team fighting for their lives. Sometimes fighting for your lives may be more important than winning a title. I don't know, because we're
going to touch on derbies and the whole sort of atmosphere and ethos around derbies in a minute. I just wanted to quickly get your thoughts on the game that took place the day after that. Man City against Brighton. Now, for me, it's interesting that Brighton is known for its beaches, because yesterday their players looked like they were on the beach, man.
And certainly weren't on Brighton beach, because it's all stones.
I mean, I think if you
don't like Brighton no more.
Yeah, if you look at the 2 games, that was probably the determining reason. When you look at Everton, they're fighting for their lives. With Brighton, they're mid-table. So at this stage of the season, if you can play mid-table teams that are not playing for anything, I think that is where the big advantage is. Now, I was less bothered about the Liverpool or the Everton-Liverpool game, because in my mind, Arsenal have to win the 4 games. So Liverpool, and I don't mean this disrespectfully for Liverpool, but if they want to take it with disrespect,
disrespected Liverpool enough.
Yes, exactly. Liverpool are inconsequential to Arsenal, because we have to win our game. So it matters not what Liverpool do. So for me, it just reinforces our position against Liverpool. They're inconsequential. The big game was yesterday, and that was the game I was all excited for. And
did you? Let's be honest though. Did you think that Brighton would get anything out of that game?
No.
Because I'm going to be honest with you, mate. I didn't see it. In fact, I kind of saw what I thought would happen. I thought, especially if City get an early goal, they were going to smoke Brighton.
The game for me where I think that they might slip up, and I'm not saying that they will, is Nottingham Forest. For the simple reason is that they are fighting for their lives. If we can beat Tottenham on Sunday, if they go and beat Nottingham Forest, I think that then they're probably home and dry, because they've got teams, as Julian said, that are all mid-table.
They've got a slight advantage
because
we play.
They're playing Tottenham, aren't they?
Yeah,
they're not mid-table.
Yeah, but I don't.
Well, talking of,
do you think you can rely on Tottenham?
No, we listen. We have to do what we can do.
Yeah, we've got to win our 4 games.
Yeah, but ultimately,
and it might happen. It might happen that Tottenham do us a favour.
Yeah, but ultimately, even if we win our 4 games, we are. This is why watching Man City is so important to me at the moment. I mean, I watched up to the 3rd goal, and then I was just disgusted by the fact that it wasn't a free kick, and then he scores with a deflection. I can't put myself through. For me, and I don't normally give up.
But to be fair, though,
bitter end,
I
but
watched
3-0.
that game. And,
did you watch the whole thing?
I've seen that thing.
Man City were by far the better.
Yeah. But in saying that, though, I did see that free kick on Sky Sports News. You know what I mean? Like when it's not a foul.
It's not a foul.
Right? And then he gives it as a foul. And then I know the game's gone. There was a penalty, like, you know what I mean, which was 10 times worse than that. He doesn't give it. You know what I mean? They do get a lot of decisions go their way, you know, and you have to accept that. You know,
you don't have to accept it, but what I did is switch off.
Well, exactly. I didn't.
It was over for me. But then, you know, the week before, I did the same thing at 2-0 with Man United Coventry, and then on our group chat, it's, oh my God, look what's happened. So we flick back again.
Yeah. All right, lads, should we do our group bet now, like, you know, and go on different games? What game are you going to go with,
Let's
Laurie?
do this.
Let's do it. Yeah. Come on, what game are you going to go with?
I'll go for the first game, West Ham Liverpool.
Okay, and what are you going to go for?
I am going to go for a over goals, 2.
Over 2 goals. Okay, so next game up, North London Derby. I'll go for that one then. Let's put it in here. Go through Spurs versus the mighty Arsenal. Right, you're going to go on that. I'm going to have to change mine then, Laura. I'm going to go half time. I'm going to go with a half time over 2.5 goals. I think, like, you know, no, over 1.5 goals. I think Arsenal will probably be 2-0 up at half time. Not bad odds.
Sounds good to me.
Not bad odds. So I'm going to go for that. Put that in.
Is that just Arsenal goals?
Yeah. Or no, it can be both. It can be both on that.
So they might score a goal.
Yeah, so it could be 1-1 at half time. Still.
Yeah, but they're not going to score a goal. So
so we're
taking Arsenal goals.
Yeah. Okay, could double that, but I'm not going to right now. We'll just keep it as that, right? Yeah.
Nottingham Forest against Manchester City. Well, that's good odds. I'm going to bet that Forest beat Man City, and that'll be the game that wins Arsenal the league.
Well, that'd be nice if that can happen then.
Done.
Oh, this is pretty good, like, you know. Look, the group returns of £403. That means £134.50 each if this bet comes up, boys.
Do I have to wait for you to give me the money?
No, it'll all be in your account ready. Like,
oh, good, good.
So, yeah,
even better.
Yeah, even better, like,
much
I ain't
better.
got to rely on you or me to give you the money. So, you happy with this, boys? Shall I place the bet?
Please do.
Go on, do it.
Bet placed.
Bet placed.
There we go.
£144.50 coming my way.
And Arsenal to win the league.
Oh, could be a great weekend.
Sign up now using code AFTV5 for 2 free £5 group bets, plus an additional free £5 bet for a limited time only until 10th of May. Just click the link below or scan the QR code on screen. Users must be 18 or over and in the UK. Please gamble responsibly and visit begambleaware.org.
But
okay then, well, let's move on then to the game that we're all here to discuss. This Sunday at Tottenham, it's the 209th, I believe, North London derby between Spurs and Arsenal. Arsenal Spurs. Spurs are at home, obviously. It could be arguably that this is amongst the most important that we've ever seen, those two games. Those two teams play. And I would say as well that Arsenal-Tottenham, or Spurs-Arsenal, has now surpassed all the other derbies, certainly in England.
Look, listen, I've always said that about the Arsenal-Spurs derby. I think it's best because we're
the biggest derby in British football, or English football.
I think it is because if you be really honest about it, look at Manchester United, Manchester City, right? Let's just take that one into context, like, you know, that, you know, Manchester United fans say it's Liverpool, you know what I mean? So,
and that's not really a real derby, is it?
So no, so that takes that one out of the way.
Man.
The Merseyside derby, fantastic as it is normally a little bit more one-sided than any other. And again, I will say that Liverpool would say that that's Man United, like, you know. So then you go into the Birmingham. Birmingham got Aston Villa, Birmingham, one's in one league, one's in not, and that's happened on several occasions. The Arsenal Spurs one, other than one time in the 70s, it's always been there, and there's been a rivalry where I think that the gap got big at one stage, but all through my lifetime, it's not been that far away.
Oh, it has,
and
it has for a long time.
I think, to be honest, in recent years, Spurs have got better.
We're far superior to them for a long, long time.
Oh yeah, but when I first started growing up with Arsenal, it wasn't.
Yeah, in the 70s it wasn't.
70s and 80s it wasn't.
The analogy I was making was like
George
now.
Graham come along, really.
Yeah.
If you look at the two teams now, or over the past couple of years, they're quite. Even though we don't really want to say it,
they've been the better.
They are quite close in comparison.
They are now. I would say that for the first time since I don't know, the 70s Arsenal I think were better. In the 80s, I think early 80s,
it was even.
Tottenham took over a little bit with those teams that they, the Crooks, Archibald and Hoddle era. Then we've gone above them in the George Graham, and no two ways about that. And then there was a massive jump when Arsene Wenger took over. Massive.
Yeah.
But that gap has narrowed.
But when Pochettino came in there, he overtook us.
Yeah, but it's been increasing again. It's been expanding.
Yeah, but
over the last few years.
Not quite there yet.
But I do think
the point I'm making is, right, if you look at the other derbies in England, you can make an exception with the Glasgow derby because that is very fierce and we know all about that.
It's not English,
history,
is it?
The religious backgrounds and all that. But to me, in England anyway, Arsenal, Tottenham, Arsenal, to me, that's the biggest derby in English football.
I just need to make one point on this. I think that when Spurs have got in front of us, in all the times that they've got in front of us and been probably the slightly better team, there's not been much of a gap. But every time the gap gets bigger. And you're right, the last couple of seasons, the gap has, I think, got bigger than what it ever did under that Pochettino era.
Yeah. Yeah, no, absolutely.
That being said, though, I think Tottenham only won one in the last 6 Premier League games against. Although they did draw at the Emirates this season.
That deservedly so.
Yeah,
deservedly so.
So anyway, the scene has been set. Let's start with Lee. Lee, I'm interested to hear your views on this one. Now, a lot has been said about this game. Tottenham, they're going for 4th place. But it's interesting. I did a show with Abby and Robbie yesterday, and she was basically saying, "Look, screw 4th place. We just want to stop Arsenal from winning that title." So you can imagine at the game on Sunday, 2:00 on Sunday, and you guys will be there. You're very fortunate, by the way. That is going to be an absolute cauldron, is it not?
Of course it is, because that is Spurs' season. Listen, I've got a lot of Spurs associates and all that. If we win on Sunday, they'd be tucking their Tottenham shirts in their drawers and bringing out their Manchester City shirts. Actually going to the Spurs-Arsenal game, Spurs-Man City game in their Man City shirts. You know what I mean? Singing Blue Moon and everything like that. Apparently, learning how to sing that song.
Well, there's a suggestion from some of their fans that the team might roll over and let
they want them to. Yeah. And then the fact is, and that's where Julian is right about, I've never ever been like that. I've never been like that about Tottenham. I want Tottenham.
No, but to be fair, because you've never had to.
We've never had to.
Because they've never been a threat.
I've never been that threat where it's titles. I see, but I can't have you coming and winning the title. What, again? You know what I mean? Because we've done it on a couple.
Mind you, I do remember that when they played Liverpool in the Champions League, I was like, Liverpool, please.
Yeah, of course. It was a very stressful 9 seconds for me.
Yeah. It was I'll tell you what, it was a very, very stressful 9 seconds. It was a very stressful and not a very enjoyable summer up until they beat Ajax until the 1st of June. 8:00, whatever time it was. But it was a relief. And so I get that they feel like that. You know what I mean? Look, we've never had to endure them winning a league. Yeah. They've had to endure it.
Well,
a few times.
Look, I think the most we've had to endure with Spurs over the last few years, maybe even 10 years, is an Audi Cup and a Peace Cup. It's pretty much it. And
all right, Julian, let's talk a little bit about the game. So I'm expecting a very difficult game, but there are 1 or 2 things that does give me confidence. First is the obvious one. We're playing so well.
We're playing Spurs. Is that the obvious one?
But Spurs have they haven't played for 2 weeks. That's the first thing. So it could be a bit rusty. Although some people could argue that they're rested. But one of their better players for this season, Udogie, left back, he's out. We know that. Now, when you consider Arsenal's favoured side, right-hand side, Ben White, Saka, do you think we can get any joy out of that?
Well, I actually thought we'd probably get more joy attacking if Ndogi was playing from an attacking perspective.
Udogi. Destiny Udogi.
Destiny.
Not Indogi.
Destiny, how do you pronounce it?
Or just call him Destiny.
All right. Mr. Destiny.
What is it? Ndogi?
Destiny Udogi.
Udogi.
Good player.
He is a good player.
All right. He is a good player going forward, but defensively, he's suspect. But that's the way the manager.
Spurs do play with that high line, don't they?
Yeah. So. They play with a high line. Attacking wise, he's been brilliant. So to answer your question, I think with who's going to come in for him, which is probably Ben Davies.
Ben Davies, I would imagine.
I actually think he's defensively more sound. So I wouldn't say we would suffer. It's definitely a good thing he's not playing. But I was never that fussed, whoever they put out, because of the tactics that he employs, especially at home, that they'll just play into our hands. As long as we play our game, it doesn't matter to me how well the individual players play.
Because I was going to ask you about it. When you say play our game, now we all know that Arsenal possession-based team, press from the front. Do you see the manager adopting the same tactics, or would he put a few tweaks and what?
Well, if you look at how Newcastle played them, Newcastle almost came up with tactics specifically to play Spurs, and I think Arteta's that much of a tactician that he'll look exactly how Spurs set up, because one thing with Spurs, they don't seem to have a plan B. They play in one way, and the manager seems almost proud. You know, he's come out with that statement, "We are who we are," or something, words to that effect. And that is exactly the kind of team that Arsenal do well against, especially ones that try and go toe-to-toe with us. And if he tries that again, which I think he will try and do, especially at home, then I think so long as we play to the best of our abilities, it really doesn't matter what Spurs do, as long as they play that way.
Lee, another question for you, mate. Tottenham's threats, the obvious one being Son. But Maddison, I'm sure, will be playing. He did pretty well against us last time. Who do you see as their major threats?
Yeah, I see their front three as a threat, because I think Arsenal will play the same way as we do, and on the counter attack, I do think that if Arsenal have a weakness in their armoury, it is on the counter attack. That is why we can see more goals at home than we do away. Because we were on the front foot a little bit. Even Chelsea got a few breaks on us, and Tottenham are very, very good at that. They're very, very good on the counter attack. So, listen, I think home advantage is a big thing for them as well. Like, as you look in recent history and all that. Like, but I feel over last season, we went there and we was really in form, and their fans were dreading it, and I sense the feeling that, I've spoken to a lot of Spurs fans around and all that, like, when you say, what do you want it to be? 1-1, 2-2. None of them are going, we'll beat you 3-0 or whatever that. I don't think they're as confident. Actually, I was speaking to a Spurs fan yesterday, and he said, I feel more confident when we was going to the Emirates at the beginning of the season than I do now. And I think there's a little bit of that is that we've hit form. And their form was just dropped off to where they were when we took them on at the Emirates. But I also think at this precise moment in time that you don't, from a Spurs point of view, they don't know what they're going to get. They don't know if they're going to get a good performance, a bad performance, or whatever. I look at and the breaks that they're having. They're having like a game, and then they lose to Newcastle, and they haven't played for 2 weeks. Newcastle, by the way, was superb on that day. They played their first game since Spurs against Crystal Palace and come up short. You know what I mean? So I don't know if the break's going to be good for them or bad for them or whatever. So there's doubts in their mind going into this game, where I think when they played us at the Emirates, they was on the back of 5-6 wins and the confidence was growing and all that. But the other thing that I will take from this last year and this year is that I know in my heart and in my head that Arsenal are a better team.
Then we was corresponding fixture
the Spurs.
Than Spurs at this moment in time. Like, we'll go back to when we lost them in that first game. It was touch and go. But last season I went there knowing that Arsenal were better, and I know that I'm going there on Sunday knowing that Arsenal are a better team than Spurs. And if we play our A game, if our A game turns up,
nothing they can do.
Yeah, I think that.
Right, you mentioned the word team there, so you've digressed nicely onto what I was going to ask you guys next. The teams you want to see play. Let's start with Julian. Same team that played Chelsea, or would you see?
Yes.
Tweaks?
Yeah, I'd start that with Martinelli. I'm kind of thinking Martinelli instead of Trossard, but with Trossard's current form,
Did you drop Trossard down?
Yeah, exactly. It's very difficult to drop him. But then the way that Spurs play with that high line,
exactly that.
Martinelli is the perfect player to exploit that space.
So maybe come on later in the game when they're a bit tired, the Spurs defence.
I'm with you on this.
I'm torn. I have exactly the same.
I think
exactly the same team. The only
horses for courses.
Yeah, it's like Martinelli or Trossard.
Yeah, and I'm with you. I'm with Julian on this. For me, I think the rest of the team picks itself. But I do think, there is that saying, horses for courses. Sometimes you've got to go with what the opposition you're playing. Martinelli suits the way that this game is when there's going to be a lot of grass behind, and he can exploit it. But if I'm a manager, I'm thinking that is very, very harsh to leave out Trossard, who's been very, very good. But sometimes in professional sports, it's ruthless.
But would you start with Martinelli? I hear what you're saying. Martinelli, for me, he has to play some part in the game.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure if I would start him. I mean, if you look at the recent games, he's not been at his best. In fact, I would say he's not been at his best for pretty much most of the season. And that's just me being honest. It's no dig at him. It's just the truth, in my opinion. Whereas Trossard, especially in recent matches, he's really come to the fore. He's playing well. He's scoring goals.
Yeah. In his defence with Martinelli, he's had the complete left side taken out of the whole thing, really, even when Martinelli's not been there. So when Martinelli's been in there, last season he had Xhaka and Zinchenko both doing what they were doing and doing theirs. That's been taken away. He's had other players coming in there. The one thing I will say now, if Thomas Partey plays, you've got Declan Rice there. I would like to see what it would be like with that side of it situation. But listen, I think Trossard's been fantastic over the last few games. As you know, like the stats that what Julian brought up earlier on, agree with it. But sometimes horses for courses.
So you're saying starting Martinelli?
I'm not saying starting Martinelli. I think it's a when they get round and have their team management. I think it'll be debated.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah, and I think that's the only
another area of
debate
might be the midfield. Now we saw a change for the Chelsea game. Partey, who I've been calling for to get more minutes, he came in to the team in the midweek against Chelsea, and I thought he did very well. Now, for me, I think he should start against Tottenham. What about you guys?
I'd absolutely agree.
I concur.
If he's fit, the difference between him and Jorginho has been great, but Partey's ceiling is higher.
You see that on...
And you can see that. And they've kept him back because of the fact we've got Jorginho and we've got alternatives. Whereas previously, in previous squads, we've had to rush these players back in because the players that can come in to replace them just aren't at the same level. Jorginho's not that far off. So we've really benefited from that.
No, listen, Jorginho's did well. He's done better than what I thought he would, to be honest. But I just think in a game of this magnitude, the sort of intensity and physicality that I'm expecting, I think a fit Partey, that's the key, a fit Partey.
And he looked fit.
He looked fit the other night.
It's for me a better option.
Yeah, he looked fit the other night, and I think I totally agree with Julian. In the past, we've had to probably bring him back 1 or 2 games earlier than what we wanted to because we've been desperate. This time we haven't really. I think we've missed him. I think you actually see on Tuesday why you think, wow, that's what we've missed. We have missed that sort of thing in midfield, but we've managed to get to where we are without him. Basically, his last performance was in August, I think. Was that someone told me that? Is that before the injury?
The last start. He's come on as a sub a few times.
Yeah, I know. He started against Luton, but I don't think his first game over. So we've had him not had him since.
It's been
August.
sporadic.
Yeah, you know what I mean. So, and listen, I think that. It's not just his play. I think because of how good he is in that sort of role and the part, even the first goal. Look at the first goal against Chelsea, it's his first time ball into Rice that gets it there. I also think he makes Rice and Odegaard play better as well.
Yeah, that's a very good
So
point.
for me,
I think that trio there, Partey, Odegaard,
and it's the midfield.
I'll be very confident if that midfield three.
That midfield trio.
I don't think there's any better.
I would say that.
So I'm a big.
How about left back? I mean, there's a lot of the fans I chat to. There's that constant debate: is it Zinchenko, is it Tomiyasu, or is it Kivior?
I think you'd have to. For me, it's Tomiyasu, as long as he's fit.
I did see Tomiyasu get skinned a couple of times by Madueke in that first half.
He did. He hasn't played for a little while, but
so would you go Kivior?
I wouldn't go Kivior. I wouldn't go
Zinchenko.
Zinchenko, I would.
Who's probably better on the ball than both of those two guys.
Yeah, it's just if you want a more open game at Spurs.
I played Zinchenko against Bournemouth. He's
you'd absolutely play him against Bournemouth. I'm
Tomiyasu for this one.
Yeah, I would be Tomiyasu.
Keep it tight at the back. Like our defence, another clean sheet. I think if we get a clean sheet at Spurs, it's a record, and also David Raya wins the clean sheet.
It equals the record.
It equals the record, and David Raya then can't be beaten for
the Golden Boot.
For the Golden
Glove. Golden Glove. I keep.
So that would be like, that's how good the defence is.
And the other thing would be it would stop Spurs scoring for something like the 18th home game in a row. So it's always good for as we talked about the Chelsea issues of enjoying them losing. Sunday's important for two reasons.
But I think a bigger stat than that is the fact that they've conceded so many goals, 49 already this season. That shows to me that they can be touched.
And another thing that they're weak on, and speaking to a couple of my Spurs mates, is like corners. They can't defend corners, and we're very, very good at them. So listen, we've got to go there, and we've got to produce a performance that is nigh on like what we've done in the past on a few away games, and play the game, not the occasion. The atmosphere is going to be big and everything like that. That's
me. Sorry about that, guys.
So everything's going to be. Listen, it's going to be I think there's more pressure on us, if I'll be honest, because we've got. I think if you said to Tottenham fans now, would you take a draw? They're going to say yes, they would. I don't think we can fault it, and that's more worry about this whole game.
I'm going to call you preemptively, because that was going to be my next question. If we do drop points, is that terminal for our chances?
Yeah. I don't think we can afford to drop any more points.
I don't think we can afford to slip up at Spurs.
So after seeing Man City play for however many minutes and until I switched off, one thing I realised about them was, and the difference between them and us is that when they pass the ball around, they seem to be under less pressure, whereas we seem to concede a few mistakes giving the ball away, which puts us under a bit of pressure. Our centre backs are that good that we normally don't get punished for those mistakes. Whereas one thing I noticed about City, I just didn't see them make any mistakes. Just didn't seem to give the ball away. So I would say, I'm not going to say definitely, I would say probably.
I would agree. You know what, as well, it's interesting because both Arsenal and City both went out of the Champions League within a day of each other. And I was saying that for us, although it was a disappointing way to go out, I wasn't like crestfallen to the point where, because I thought, okay, the guys can focus on the Premier League. But similarly, City going out of the Champions League for me was disappointing, because I thought now all their eggs are going to be focused on the Premier League. So
there is that, but
we can't afford to slip up.
At the end of the day, you have to look at City and be realistic. That it's 18 games unbeaten. The last time they lost was last year against Aston Villa. You remember we beat them on the weekend, and on the Sunday, I think we played on the Sunday. Now they lost on the Wednesday to Aston Villa. They've not lost since. And people say about last season, they went on a run last season that no one could match, and they're doing it again. And for them to win the league, I think they're going to go on to win it. They're probably like, it will be about 1-21 and drawn 4 in their last 25 games. That's incredible. That's what you're up against, So I do think that if we don't win on Sunday, but I've always said it won't be because of this game here. I think Arsenal will look back at it and go, do you know what, dropping Fulham. I will say that, 1 point against Fulham.
Well, the margins for error are so small.
Yeah, and you can't afford to do that, I
mean, let's be honest. If we don't get the win, say it was a draw, and I don't even like to say that, but just say it was a draw. Mathematically, we're not out of it because there's still 4 or 5 games left. But it would be just such a damaging blow.
We're saying
we got to win.
Saying it now that probably, if I'll be really, really honest, if you're looking at their fixture running now, I'm looking at if we beat Tottenham on Sunday, I'm looking at that Nottingham Forest game. If they beat Nottingham Forest and we've beaten Tottenham, I'm still saying they're not going to drop no more points from that.
Well, let's look at their games left. So you mentioned the Forest game. After that, they've got Wolves at home. They go to Fulham. Then they've got Tottenham, that's away, and then they've got West Ham as their last game. Whereas us, obviously we've got Tottenham at the weekend, we're at home to Bournemouth after that. Man United away, that's another difficult game. We've got Everton on the last game of the season. Now Everton, they're safe now after that game against Liverpool. So the 2 games that sort of stand out for me are Tottenham away and Man United away. But yeah, and then Liverpool, they've got West Ham away, Tottenham at home. So Tottenham playing all 3 teams, Villa away, and their last game Wolves at home.
Yeah, as I said before, I think Liverpool's inconsequential now anyway.
More points, Liverpool.
Yeah, but it doesn't matter so much about Liverpool. It's all about what City do. If we win at Tottenham, I'm confident we'll win our other 3 games.
Yeah, I am as well.
Yeah, I think most fans
and it all comes down to,
out of the 4, is this the one that you fear the most?
Yeah, and it's not because of
it's not because of Spurs. The occasion, everything like that.
It's the occasion, but so long as Arsenal don't play the occasion and play the 11 players in front of them, who I think are worse players than us. I mean, that they are, everything you look at when you look at Spurs is worse than Arsenal. Everything. You've not just got to look at the trophy cabinet. You've got to look at every single one of those players. You've got to look at the manager and the players and the motivation of the performance. We should beat them quite easily. The only thing that can trip us up is the occasion.
That's true. However, the occasion will be...
As you say with Everton and Liverpool. You see it like the other day.
Although, to be fair to Arsenal, earlier in the season, we went away to City. It was the same type of thing there. We got a draw. I mean, obviously, we don't want a draw for this weekend, but the point I'm making is, to me, the players do have the mentality to handle that game.
No doubt about that. You know, they were superb at Tottenham last season. You know what I mean?
Right, okay. The time has come. I'm going to press you for your predictions and who you think the standout players for Arsenal will be. Let's start with Lee Judges. Result, who's going to win?
He was superb the other night. Didn't realise, actually, until I watched the game, how actually good he was. I know he had a good game. Martin Odegaard for me. I think if he clicks, Arsenal.
I call him Martin Cardio God. That guy's amazing.
Love watching him. The last few games, he's been incredible. And do you know one of the things that was very interesting on Tuesday? Him and Declan Rice stayed on, even though we was 4 or 5-0 up. So they must know that these guys can do it again. And I think if Arsenal win, it'll be down to his control.
Give me a scoreline.
2-0 to Arsenal.
Oh, you said exactly the same result.
That's what I call him preemptive lead.
It's like,
I was thinking like.
Oh, okay, I'll take that. Yeah, I completely agree with Lee.
Who do you think the match winners for us will be?
It's Odegaard makes them tick, but here's the thing: why I don't like being asked that particular question, because something you said was team and players. We're not 11 players, 11 brilliant players. We are a tremendous team.
Good point.
So they all work together, and that's why Partey almost seemed like the final piece to that midfield jigsaw. Is that he had a great game, but what he did, he facilitated the other two having an even better game. So it's all about them clicking, and I think with Partey there, so I'll slightly change it in much. I do completely agree with Odegaard, but bringing Partey in
is a key.
Kind of the key to the rest of them, although they weren't bad before with Jorginho. It just raises the level slightly to hopefully mean that Spurs have zero chance of doing anything.
So 2-0, 2-0,
Yeah.
and you've gone for Martin Cardio Guard, and you've gone for
Partey. I'll go for Partey.
But I do agree.
What about yourself? Before you go,
you do make a very good point about it's a team performance. So from back to front, everyone's got to perform, and with that defence we've got, I can see us getting a win. Although, you know what, I probably think over 90 minutes Spurs will probably get a goal, but I'm going for us to win 2-1, and I think the key players, defence we mentioned, Martin Cardio Guard, and I think Declan Rice, man. That man, he's a man for the big moments.
I've got to say, like, you know, look, listen,
I could see him getting man of the match.
I love Martinelli. I've always loved Martinelli. He's probably my favourite. But Declan Rice now has sort of took over as my favourite player. You know,
he's amazing.
He's done it within a season. I love Martinelli first time I see him, I'll be honest. But what this guy's just come in and done.
Is it just me, though? But this team seems a very likeable team. Not that the other guys weren't likeable. I mean, I remember when Aubameyang was at the club, he was one of my favourite players.
I didn't like any Arsenal players at one time.
Really?
I couldn't stand Ozil. Couldn't stand him.
No, but what I'm saying is this team as a unit, they're a very likeable bunch of guys.
Do you know what? There was a time, and I'll say this, and I'll be really honest about it. If you say you had the M25 and the Arsenal players of the 90s and all that were walking along the other side, I'd risk my life to go over and see them.
Yeah, I would as well.
Do you know what I mean? I'd take the chance. There was a time when there was a certain Arsenal teams under Wenger and whatever, and even Arteta, I would have just said, "No, I can't be bothered," you know. But now,
I see it.
We're in love again.
From the whole team, and even some of the players that are not playing, I am, and you know, I have got that feeling of it back. So when do you know what? There was a time, I don't know if you felt this, Julian, that Arsenal would lose, and because I weren't really loving them, I'd be really anti against them. If we lose now, I sort of want to forgive them a little bit easier than I did them in the past.
No, you know, that sentiment you've expressed there, I've spoken to a few people recently that have made the same point, that this is a very likeable bunch of lads, and they're a unit. They come across as a... there are standout players. You know, we spoke about Declan Rice and people like that, but they're very relatable.
It's almost that they love us back.
Yeah,
the performances they put in, the efforts.
I just think there's certain things that this team. Like, I remember going to Man United, and not just Man United, other games, when there'd be one or two players come up and thank you, and I remember Mertesacker pushing Ozil.
Yeah, I was there.
Do you know what I mean? Like, you don't get that with it now. Like that, they walk around after the game.
And
they come
also
up
give their shirts at away games.
Although
I've never got one. They always give them to the
kids.
No,
man,
but
not for guys.
What I don't understand is that they give them to kids, but they don't fit kids. So why bother?
Put the memento
yeah, but
on
I'd wear it.
As long as they don't sell them to, you know what I mean, on the net and stuff like that. But anyway, listen, I'm very conscious of time. I've loved it chatting with you guys.
Been a pleasure, isn't it?
It has been a pleasure. So just to recap, 2-0, 2-0, I've gone 2-1, but we all think Arsenal are going to win, don't we?
We've got to win.
Yeah,
We've got to win.
We can't afford any slip-ups.
We're playing Spurs. You've only got to look at their trophy cabinet to give yourself confidence.
Trust them to get that in there. But listen, we've come to the end of the show. Thank you very much, guys, to my follically challenged friends. I guess I'm in that as well. But listen, it's been great talking about not just the Tottenham game, but the other games as well. And yeah, man, really looking forward to this weekend. It's going to be great. Tell us what you're up to over the coming days.
Up to a couple of days, like a nice, easy day tomorrow. And then, like, obviously going to the game Sunday. It really, this weekend is all about.
It's all about.
It's all about the game, like.
Julian,
that's
your pre-match prep, like.
Well, I'm going with your brother, so we've got to come up with a special routes in, and
that's the
other side to it.
I've got to plot my. I can't normally go my normal route here, because it's all Spurs. You know what I mean?
He wants to get there 3 hours before. I mean, I did suggest he go in disguise, but he said that there's no disguise he can wear. People would recognise his body shape. I didn't know quite what he meant about that. I said I'd wear a hat, but you know, that's kind of the discussions at the moment.
Get your old tin hat on and get yourself in there. Like, get in and out.
No, you know what?
It's not the most pleasant environment.
I'm really looking forward to it, man. I'm really looking forward to it. But listen, guys, thank you very much for watching the show. Thank you so much to Lee and to Julian, respectively, for coming on today. Shout out to Robbie. He wasn't able to be with us today, but I'm sure he'll be watching and he's with us in spirit. Thanks again. Enjoy the game on Sunday. Take care.
The Invincible podcast. Myself, Robbie, and Lee Judges come together once a week to discuss all things Arsenal. Straight talking, considered discussion, brought to you by the fans of the only club in Football League history to go invincible.